Hello, world, and welcome back to We the People, an American pod show. Tonight, we got Kevin with us, and we're going to be talking about overcoming obstacles. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Juan.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing awesome.
Sweet. Thanks for having me here.
Right? Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's an honor. This is cool.
Yeah, it's you know, you get in the space, right? And then you have all these cameras on you, and you got all this stuff, and it feels like there's this pressure, and it's like we have to get everything all perfect. But really, it's super impromptu, man. We don't take it too serious over here. So, you'll settle in.
Cool.
So, I think the best place to start is, where are you from?
I was actually originally born in California, in Pasadena. But then when I was 3, my parents decided that they wanted to raise us somewhere not in California. So we moved to Eugene. They had visited here because we camped, and they fell in love with Eugene. And we're like, we're going to move the family there. So I moved when I was 3, and then they had my little brother when I was up here. I was here until about 15. A couple years after my parents got divorced, my mom moved me and my little brother down to Orange County.
So back up a little bit. Talk to me about Pasadena.
Okay.
So how long were you in Pasadena again?
Till I was 3.
Till you were 3. So you didn't really spend a whole lot of time there then. I mean, do you remember anything?
I don't remember anything until I'm back there and I'm back at my home area, when I'm at the apartment complex that my aunt lived at, then weird memories start coming back while I'm there.
Gotcha.
But I can't randomly recall that.
So how long then did you live? Where's Pasadena first at? So that way.
Pasadena is
California.
I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure it's technically part of LA,
Okay.
Los Angeles County.
Gotcha.
And it's not too far from Los Angeles City, so proper. It's
Gotcha.
probably 20 or 30 minutes outside of LA,
Okay.
LA proper.
So then you guys moved to Eugene. You're in Eugene. How long are you in Eugene?
Till I was 15.
15.
So middle school, middle school, high school, and then halfway through my junior year, we moved down to Orange County.
Gotcha. So now you're 15 years old. How is that leaving Eugene? Because clearly you settled in, right? You got I'm imagining at that age you have friends, you're engaged. I mean, you went to public school, right?
Yeah, so both actually. I went to private school most of my middle school year, and then my freshman year I went to a private high school.
Okay.
And then me and my parents decided to move me into a public school my sophomore year. So then I was public school that sophomore year, and then half of the junior year, and then that's when we moved.
So how was that? Do you recall going from private school to public school? Was it completely different type of feel, or?
So I feel that you're going to ask 2 separate questions. One's going to be the private to public, and then from public in Oregon to public in California.
Right.
But the private to public was actually really easy.
Okay.
I didn't like private school. That was one of the reasons that prompted the move to, or the departure.
Right.
It was so much better. Instead of I'm not bashing private school, but instead of religion class as my extracurricular,
right.
I got to do fun things like architecture, and I had a wood shop class, and
Gotcha.
I had a mechanics class,
Right.
So I got to do stuff that was really up my alley.
Right.
So I actually preferred public school over private school.
Okay.
So that transition was super smooth.
Right.
The transition from Oregon to California, though, man, that was a tough one.
I was gonna say that sounds like it, right? I mean, because I imagine that Pasadena is a lot bigger than Eugene, right?
Right, and when I moved back down was not to Pasadena, it was to Orange County.
Okay.
So that's the next county south of LA County.
Okay.
So it's not far, probably 30 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic, of course.
Right.
30 to 45 minutes away from Pasadena. So moved to Orange County, and yeah, completely different, way more people. My high school in Junction City, which was where I went, where was I? In Eugene.
Right.
That there was a total of 600 kids in the whole high school.
Okay.
And then I went to a high school that had that many just in my graduating class. There was like 2,600 kids in the whole
Right.
high school, so it quadrupled in size, if not.
Right.
Yeah,
Even probably
crazy.
even more.
Yeah.
So how was that like settling in then? I mean, as you're going back, I mean, you have longer summers, right? So that was probably pretty cool, but
It's all the time summer down there.
I mean, I imagine that like everybody around that age is, like settled in, right? They're like got their little cliques, got all that going on. Insert Kevin to now become part of that. How's that, man? Did you end up like finding a clique and getting in, or what?
At first, it was really hard. So, like I said, it was halfway through my junior year, which was like March, I think. Is
Gotcha.
when we moved, February, March, and I didn't make any friends my junior year. Like in SoCal, I made no friends.
Gotcha.
It was just like you said, the clique thing. It's hard to get into groups once they've already been solidified over half a year.
Right.
But then also it's a completely new atmosphere, so like culture is different.
Right.
So hard to fit into that too when you're new to it.
Right.
I picked up a lot of the culture over the summertime.
Gotcha.
So when I came back my senior year, I made friends pretty quickly.
Right.
And
When you say culture, are you saying like the California kind of Orange County's culture, or are you saying like the school's culture, or are you just saying like the California atmosphere, or is it?
the SoCal, the Southern California kind of vibe.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
that's different than Oregon. It's a little more. It's free in a different sense. It's not free like hippie free, but it's free like people are just like, yeah, man, what's going on? Like we're all buddy, we're all friends, in like a legit way.
Okay. So I think that's kind of how like being on the outside. That's how like you might imagine it. I mean, I feel maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's kind of the vibe that California kind of gives off, other than like the Hollywood vibe, right? There's like the vibe of California being like low key, like let's just chill out and have a good time, enjoy the sun, life is good type of feel. And then there's like the Hollywood vibe. It's like super cliquey, right?
Yeah.
These extreme parties and, vloggers left and right and, just make it work, make it happen super easy. They find some kind of niche and they're just like, oh, I got a trust fund, like I'm good to go.
Yeah, my parents make a ton of, man, you have no idea the high school that I went to.
Right.
It literally raised the property value of homes if you were in the territory of my high school. Because my high school was the number 2 high school in America for a while, and then it fell a couple, just who knows why.
Right.
But still, like, I mean, it raised the price of a house by like 25 or 50K just because you were in the district of Foothill High School.
Right.
Because it was such a good high school, but it was such an expensive part of Orange County.
Right.
That, man, these kids living in these like $10-15 million mansions, throwing parties on the weekend, driving their Range Rovers. Is this their high school car? These kids are 16.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. So how were you in school then? Were you like, would you say you were like good grades, getting after it, or were you like, I don't care about this? Like, what was your kind of census on school?
That's funny that you ask, because I was not the greatest student in high school,
Okay.
like for many of years. But then my junior year came around, and the reason we moved to Southern California is my mom met my stepdad, and that's where
Okay.
he lived. So we moved down there to move in with him.
Gotcha.
And he was extremely regimented with school, like very regimented. I
Right.
was not allowed to like come home with like bad grades. I didn't have a whole lot of fun my like junior and the second half of junior
Right.
year and into senior
He
year.
wanted you to focus.
Right,
He was like,
yeah.
"Focus."
Basically, it was bad, man. It was like actually to the point of abusive.
Right.
I mean, that you can take anything as good or bad. I like still look at it in the most positive light. Like, it was a good thing for me. Obviously, there's bad parts, but it still had a lot of good impact on
Right.
me. but it was not an easy part of life.
Gotcha.
I graduated though with all A's and B's.
Okay.
So I turned it around. You know, I was getting D's and C's freshman through junior, and then I turned it around my last year.
So you had mentioned early on, and I think it's good right there where you're talking about a stepfather. So it sounded like there was a divorce. When that divorce happened, it sounds like maybe your father stayed here and your mom went there, or did they both go to California? Like, if you're comfortable talking about that.
Sure. Dad stayed in Eugene.
Okay.
I didn't have a whole lot of communication, to be honest, at the time. Like, it was a pretty bad falling out of the divorce, so
Right.
it kind of really separated the family.
Right.
And I then rekindled the relationship with my father, like 5, 7. Man, I'm getting old. Time goes by so fast. Like 6 years ago. Sorry,
Right.
math. 6 years ago, my dad and I reconnected in life, and like now we're like solid. We're best friends.
Gotcha. He still lives here then in Eugene?
He's in Eugene, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there's some things there, right? That like overcoming and coping with. What did stepdad? What did he do for a living?
He sales, but he also manages. So he's like a territory like executive rep. He's really high up.
Right.
I don't know if I should say who he works for or not, but not that he works for some like secret company. I just don't know if I want to
CIA.
divulge my stepfather's info, you know.
No, totally.
But
totally
he
understandable.
makes dang good money.
Right.
Him and my mom both are very, very successful. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
actually work like they're really good together.
Right. And, I mean, you're in Orange County. You got a little bit, right?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, man.
It's like part of the deal. If
Yeah,
you're gonna live there, you got to make good money. Got to make good living.
Yeah, and they definitely do.
Right.
They got a good living down there.
So that's interesting. So graduate high school, right?
Yep, 2010.
Okay. Did you go past high school? Any education? Ended up in a college type situation?
Yeah, community college. Actually,
Yeah. Me too.
The term right after high school, I started community college. I was in 3 classes.
Where?
Do you say where?
I said me too.
Oh,
So
okay.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty cool. Then let's see where we go from there, right? So you
Kicked out of the house.
got kicked out of the house.
Yeah. Because of grades.
Because of grades.
Yeah, I failed an economics final.
Okay.
In high school, you know, I was not allowed to bring home less than a B on
Right.
anything.
Right.
And I brought home a D on an economics final. I got a B plus in the class, but like the final itself, I got a D on.
Right.
And that was not acceptable. So like they made this really crazy regimented like schedule for me, and like they started making economics tests for me.
Right.
And I wasn't doing as well as they were hoping that I would progress forward. Kind of insane, man. I had a really crazy childhood,
Yeah.
good and bad.
Do you feel that kind of sticks with you to this day though? It's a little bit of that regimen. I mean, you and we met through running, right? And man, you're super regimented in that, and you're go, you know, and you got it, and you attack it, and you inspire the people that are around you to run even further. You know, where you're like, oh, we can go a little further. You know, let's go. You know, and
Yeah.
it's true. You can. You know, it's amazing what can happen, right? When you're running, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I've only ran 2 miles before. I just did 2 miles, and then somebody else is going, I think you could do 3.
Yeah.
And then they drag you along, and next thing you know, you're doing 6, right? and so I wonder, I mean, do you feel like some of that regimenting has stuck with you?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of positive to it.
Yeah.
But with all positive, there's also negative, and
Right.
there's definitely some like pretty hardcore scars that I deal with, like
Right.
mentally, that I'm still overcoming to this day. Like
Right.
we all have stuff from our childhood that's really messed with us,
Right.
and there's definitely parts of that experience that were still things that I struggle with to this day.
Right.
But definitely the not so much the regimented aspect, but just the knowledge that there is more.
Right.
and there's more to be had. There's more development, more growth to be had.
Gotcha.
That really stuck with me. So like I am always striving to be better than I am. I'm always like, one thing that they really like kind of put in my head was like, it's okay not to be comfortable, and to be honest, you're never going to be comfortable because you always should be evolving and growing.
Right.
And that of course has its catch-22 as well. You're never
Yeah.
comfortable, but
Right.
also you're always growing.
Have you? I was telling you we were on a run. I was talking about that book, The Principles,
Yeah.
and one of the things that it's talking about in that book is it's discussing that in order to evolve, you're gonna have to go through some sort of pain, because you're gonna evolve to something you've never been before, meaning as you're gonna do something you've never done. So whether it's pain like on your brain, or it's like physical pain, like say you're working out and you want to, become, better at squats or whatever it might be, like you're going to have to evolve. Or let's say you want to you want to become an astronaut, you're going to have to go through and get the education to do that, and that's going to be painful, and you're going to have to go through that hardship. And but yeah, that's one of the things it speaks about in that book, and it's, to me, it's really relevant. Like it's true. You see it every day as you're moving forward, right? Trying to get better, improve, and do something you've never done, right?
Yeah.
So it's uncharted territories. So how was, you mentioned getting kicked out of the house. How was that? Was that like, what was the next move, man?
Thankfully, my parents played it well, to be honest. They're like, we wouldn't have kicked you out if you didn't have a really solid job. You weren't already making good money.
Gotcha.
They gave me like a week heads up. So like I was able to find a place,
Right.
So I wasn't like on the streets when I got kicked out. Like I was making good money for a kid right out of high school.
Right. Kicked you out the nest, so to speak.
Kind of, yeah. In a really hard way, but yes, exactly that. It was kind of kicking the baby bird out of the nest, and like that was why they made that decision to do that.
Right.
And I don't know, I just grew up really fast.
Right.
Like you kind of have to, because now you're on your own. You're making all your own decisions. You're paying your own rent. Like
Right.
having to learn that was not easy.
And I don't know if,
I was 17 still at the time.
see, I don't know if it's easy for I want to say that it's easy for someone, but I feel like there's always like some sort of hardship when you have to like, get released from the nest. It's because you're uncomfortable again. You're doing something you've never done, right? So it's like, and so doing that, do you have like any advice that you would give to, like the general population when it comes to facing, like these hardships, or like going through something like that? Like what is a lesson that you maybe learned from getting kicked out of the house?
Yeah, that's a great question. Keep going. Like
Okay.
honestly, you're gonna get there one way or another.
Right.
It's either gonna be a struggle, you're gonna kick and push the whole time,
Right.
and you're gonna maybe end up there. And if you do, your entire experience up to it was terrible. So
Right.
like that doesn't benefit anybody. I really learned just to take the positives from like every situation, like learn to not dwell on the negatives, and learn to enjoy the ride. So that way, once you do get to the end, wherever you're trying to your goals, like
Right.
you built a good foundation during that.
Right. Okay. Seems like definitely solid advice. So now you've progressed through life, you're doing all that. Then you have like a significant event that happens in your life, right? That's kind of evolves you as an individual, right? Changes your whole life. I think it's good that we talk about that event, because that's another thing that you eventually had to overcome, right? So can you explain to us kind of what you went through there?
Now we're talking about my motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
We're alluding to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like round 2 of like growing up real fast in my life.
Okay.
Like seriously, getting kicked out of the house was round 1. Now we're into round 2.
Okay.
I got a motorcycle not long after I got kicked out of that, or not long after I moved out of the house.
Okay.
I mean, of course, I don't have parents anymore. So I mean, I have parents. but,
Rebel.
You know, I'm a rebel. Like, yeah, mom always told me I couldn't get the
I
motorcycle,
was
but
born to be free.
yeah, I was born to ride.
Right.
But I've always ridden bicycles, but I wanted a motorcycle. Got a motorcycle.
Like which kind of motorcycle?
My very first motorcycle was a Kawasaki Ninja, but
Okay.
it was a 250.
Okay.
So it was like a much smaller bike, which is, I mean, still a lot of power. It's still faster than most cars on the road, but it
Right.
definitely has a lot less power, to where you have so much that you're needing to learn about while you're learning how to ride a motorcycle, especially out on the streets where you're in the public, like with
Right.
cars and everything around you, that like having a really high-powered bike adds another layer of complexity that you have to worry about, the power,
Right.
If you grab too much throttle on a really big bike, like that's going to cause you really big issues.
Right.
On a 250, you've got so much playroom that it's really a good starting bike.
Gotcha.
So I had one of those for 8 months or a year. And then from there, young and dumb Kevin thought that he needed one of those 600cc bikes that
Gotcha.
were super fast. And then I graduated, which is such a silly word. But
Right.
I got a bigger bike. I sold the 250, got a 636, which was as well a Kawasaki.
Right.
And that was what I ultimately crashed on, was that bike.
Gotcha. So, are you're comfortable talking about like how you crashed? How did you? Like,
Yeah,
what
but I
happened?
don't remember any of it, so it's
I was
like,
gonna say,
I don't mind
what-
talking about it.
Yeah. What do you remember of it?
I
yeah.
remember nothing of it, like the
Literally.
crash itself, literally
Yeah.
nothing. The memory that I have are recollections from like reading police reports and people
Right.
telling me kind of what they've gathered and put together, and they think is what happened.
Gotcha.
I was on the freeway,
Right.
coming off of the freeway, going to work. So I wasn't like on the racetrack racing like I did. I raced when I lived down there.
Right.
And yeah, I was just going to work one day, somehow crashed coming off the 5 freeway at the Chapman Boulevard exit. Crashed coming off of it and couldn't maneuver anymore as I'm sliding. So I slide into a retaining wall. And then when I hit the wall, my head got pushed one way, got pushed that way. My shoulder got pushed down the other way. And there's a nerve group for your arm called the brachial plexus. It's a big chunk of nerves that runs under your clavicle up into your spinal cord.
Okay.
That's too short when your head's pushed one way and your shoulder's pushed the other way. It's completely separating it. So ripped that whole brachial plexus out of my spinal cord. The medical term is avulsed. It's a Greek term for torn from. So I avulsed the whole brachial plexus. I was put into a coma instantly from the traumatic impact.
Right.
I was in that for 3.5 weeks.
Right.
Woke up with my arm not working. So
Right.
it was still there. I just couldn't use it nor feel it.
So, fuck. Right?
Yeah.
Fuck. That's intense.
Yeah.
So, right? Like all reality sets in, right? Like,
I got lucky, man.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, I got lucky statistically. I had a 10% chance of waking up out of the coma. So, yeah, I got lucky there, of course.
Right.
But I got lucky because I suffered a traumatic brain injury. And that was kind of like hitting the restart button on your computer. Like, once your computer restarts, like, it takes a minute. Like the
Reboot.
screen pops up and, like, you're on the start page. But, like, you're trying to, like, open the start button. You're trying to open your browser. And it's,
Right.
like, it's still trying to figure it
So,
out.
and that's kind of how it felt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I basically just got reset and I had to like struggle to reboot. There was no ultimate rebooting like back to what I used to be. Like a computer can ultimately reboot to 100%.
Right.
I basically had to reboot into this new operating system that I had to build for myself.
So, like Kevin 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you recall anything? They always ask people go into a coma, right?
That's the number one question people ask me. Heck yeah.
What did you see? And did you hear anything? Do you feel anything? Like what happens when you're in there for 3 weeks? You said
3.5. Yep.
3.5 weeks. So what happens when you're in there?
I had dreams.
Okay.
I dreamed about what was like not what was going on around me, but things that were happening around me influenced my dreams. obviously I don't know this while I'm in this dream world of
Right.
coma land.
Right.
But like I'm in a dream. I remember hanging out with one of my nurses. I remember seeing my bosses. I remember being in my hospital room, but this like fairy tale version of it with my bosses and like I think my dad and my mom in the room.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So was it like dreams, and then all of a sudden you were waking up, just like as if it was like a night when you fall asleep and you have dreams there, or was it a little different?
Those dreams were a little more solidified than the dream that you dream when your mind's just like doing its thing over nighttime, you know?
Right.
So like I can remember pretty vividly to this day dreams that happened 6-7 years ago, which obviously that can't even happen sometimes from last night.
Yeah.
So like my brain didn't store those memories or experience those memories like a dream did because I still remember them. Waking up, I don't know, man. Maybe it was just like waking up like day to day, but also like I was so messed up from the brain injury.
Right. So you were still in like this fog. Like
Yeah.
you said, you were rebooting your computer. And
Yeah.
So you're still
I mean, I had to do
like dial up.
I had to do 6 hours of therapy, 6 days a week for 5 weeks before I was even able to get discharged from the hospital.
Okay.
Like I was really you're really messed up after a
Right.
brain injury, and I also suffered shaken baby syndrome, which is technically called a DAI, a diffused axonal injury. But basically, there's axons that hold the two lobes of your brain together.
Gotcha.
And when they get shaken real hard, it actually separates and breaks those. So some of those broke apart. So the connections between this lobe and that lobe had to reform a lot too. So it was really hard for me to access memory and like access how to do tasks and like even how to cross a road. Like,
Right.
you know how it's so instinctual for you to just like, as you're walking up to the road, left, right, you know, looking to make sure you're not going to get hit as you cross the road.
Yeah.
That's no longer in my memory as something automatic to do. So that was even something that one of my therapists, like, she's like, Kevin, stop, look across the road, or look both ways, then cross, you know, as we're like
Right.
walking the parking lot.
So you're like back to phase one. You know,
kinda
like
like
being a
reborn.
kid, walking. Yeah, reborn.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow. It's intense, man.
yeah. But one of the reason I said that was a good thing too is like, it reset my expectations. I didn't
Gotcha.
wake up
Gotcha.
still thinking I was Superman and going,
Right.
oh well, I'm this broken dude. I'm not who I used to be. Like grumble, grumble,
Right.
grumble. I was okay. This is Kevin 2.0, and like I'm figuring stuff out now. This is like
Right.
new me. I'm born.
See what we can do with it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just knowing a little bit about your story and running with you and doing some other crazy stuff with you, right? We did yesterday. Like I'm aware that like the arm wasn't just taken off right away.
Right.
Like you had to make a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some point. So what kind of went on there? Like how'd that go? I mean, that's a hard decision to make, my friend.
It was. At first it was, then once it was made, it was done. But my first doctor, actually, OHSU here, was like, he told me that when he first started meeting people with the brachial plexus injuries, that he told them, like, keep your arm, do as many surgeries as you can, like, let's try and get it back to as best his health as possible. And then he told me he stopped giving that suggestion. He just started telling people to get rid of the arm because that's what they're going to do eventually, probably anyway.
Right.
Because there's really not a whole lot that they can do ultimately with nerves to connect them back to a spinal cord.
Gotcha.
It can't happen. There's nothing that can be done.
Right.
And I'm like, that's crazy. You know, this just happened to me, so this is very fresh. And I'm
Right.
like, there's no way you're gonna cut my perfectly good arm off, you know.
Yeah.
But after dealing with that for a long time, reading a lot on the internet, and then meeting actually someone in Eugene that suffered the same type of injury when he was really young. He was 13, but then amputated it when he was like 40.
Right.
So he kept his arm for a long time and then finally cut it off. And he was the first arm amputee that I met. So that was really big for me because I thought it was going to be weird to like see someone without an arm. But then
Yeah.
I met someone in person without an arm, and I was like, oh hey, like, you know what? You can still look pretty cool without an arm. Like you look like a normal person.
Right.
And also like I'm like, if I'm gonna wait 30 plus years to like amputate my arm, why not just get rid of it now?
Right.
Like I'll live a better life. And I remember the day I went to go play pool with my dad at a bar in Eugene, and I was, I should say one more backstory first. I had brought this up with my dad in the past, amputation, and he was like, whoa, man, that's extreme. Like, weigh out all your options. You need to really make sure that, like, let's go do more surgeries or whatever. Do more research before you just jump to a conclusion like that.
Right.
And once I made the decision in my mind, after doing a few pretty drastic surgeries around the United States, I made the decision, like in my mind, I'm just going to get rid of this thing. So I'm going to be better off. So I took my dad out and I'm like, all right, Dad, I need to talk to you. This is something that like I need you to get on board with. And like if you're not going to get on board with it, that's your problem. But this is happening.
Right.
And he was like, wow, he's not messing around. He's done his research. He's making the best call in his mind. So like my dad was all with me on it. And he's like, he felt comfortable with me making a decision like that.
Right.
And I broke down crying in that bar, like talking with him. But we ended that night by playing some pool. It was
Right.
great.
Right.
I love playing pool.
Was it like in a sling?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have it? Okay.
I could technically let it hang there,
Yeah.
which isn't good because your shoulder doesn't have like a socket.
Right.
It's just kind of a cup. So your arm actually doesn't stay in your arm. All the muscles are keeping your arm in your shoulder right now.
Right.
Since I no longer had muscles, my arm would fall out of my shoulder. So it was better to keep it in a sling. That way I didn't have to worry about the,
Right.
it's
Popping
called
out.
subluxation. But yeah, I didn't have to worry about it popping out.
Man, you know, some things in there that you said that I think are really key, you know, was like that you made that choice, right? You were like, at some point, something in your brain clicked and said, I'm making this decision for my life. Like, I understand people have told me not to, but I've decided that this is what I need to do. And then another one too was like when you realized, you know, like right away, you know, you could have sat and bitched about it or and I'm sure there was some of that in the beginning, right? There's always that,
Oh yeah.
why this, why that, right? But that you were able to realize, like, this is new Kevin. Like, this is new Kevin. Let's start growing. Let's start building. Let's get to work, you know? And I think that it shows, and, you know, like, so what are some of your hobbies, man? Like, we got to talk about some of your, like, you have two
So
main...
that's some fun stuff.
Yeah, you got two main hobbies that I'm aware of. Is there any other ones that, like what are some of your hobbies, man?
Yeah, okay. So this last summer was like hobby summer. I got into some new stuff.
Okay.
I got into kayaking.
Okay.
So there's
Did
this.
you just go in a circle?
Great question. Great question. No, I didn't.
Just kidding.
I actually used it's not an adaptive kayak. Like it's not meant for like disabled people as like an
Right.
adaptive way.
Right.
It's actually a fishing kayak.
Okay.
So it's got pedals like a bicycle.
Oh, gotcha.
That way you could hold your fishing reel while you're fishing and you can maneuver
Gotcha.
around.
So you just maneuvered it with your feet.
But for me, I pedaled with my feet, which drove a propeller in the back, and then I had a steering rudder like on my side here that kicked the back left and right. So that's how I steered.
Adapt, overcome.
It was awesome. It was with a bunch of other amputees and actually war veterans too. It was kind of a mix between war veterans and other disabled people for this group that got on the waterfront out in Oregon City.
Right. Great stuff.
I got into archery this summer.
How the hell do you do archery? Like,
Yep, it's a mouth tab. So it's
Okay.
a big chunk of leather.
Okay.
So like at first it freaked me out because I'm like, if I grab it with my front teeth, I'm gonna rip my teeth out.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
I'm freaking
I'm
out.
thinking it's gonna spring in your face, but it's not. 'Cause
No,
it's releasing.
yeah, it's releasing. So I was
Yeah.
more afraid of my teeth, to be honest.
Right.
But I learned though that you bite a tab like with your molars.
Okay.
So you're biting with like some big teeth.
Knife torque
Yeah, exactly. And
or grip.
it actually was incredibly intuitive, man, because you're biting it, so the string is right here.
Got you.
This isn't a gun with two sights. So
Yeah.
this is and you're needing to look down the string, which is what you would do
Right,
if you
and they-
pulled back.
yeah,
You'd
we
be
would-
looking down that string.
And that's what they say, like with your nose, anyhow, right? So it's like, okay.
So it's just like, bam, it's super intuitive. It was just like right there. And it was like, you would drop you would
drop
open
your
your
jaw.
mouth. But you had to be, you had
Could it,
to,
I was gonna say, could it slap your, like get your like your lip?
no, because it's such a strong pull, it gets out of the way
It's
so
gone. It's-
fast.
okay.
The one thing you have to worry about though is like, it even gets to the point, the intricacy of opening your mouth.
Right.
Because if you do that, that means you're moving your upper jaw and your bottom jaw, so you're not releasing just the same. And it's all about
Oh,
consistency.
yeah.
The only way to be consistent, which is what I learned from another one-arm shooter, of course, good on YouTube, watching people,
Right. Right.
drops his jaw. So that way the top is always static. It just goes. So see how easy that is for
Yeah.
me to replicate that over and over and over. So
Right.
all he does is just drop his jaw and boom, it's gone.
So the internet, man, has been super helpful. in all this.
Hugely.
Yeah. YouTube's awesome.
Yes and no.
Gotcha.
There's been some good stuff. There's also been some downfalls, which has actually it caused me to start a couple Facebook groups.
Okay.
So I I run 2 Facebook groups. One
Right.
of them's got over 2,000 or over 1,800 people on it now.
Yeah.
And then
That's cool. So a little community has came from it. And,
it's the traumatic brachial plexus
Okay.
group. So people that suffered the nerve injury in a traumatic sense, aka after birth.
right.
It's a group of people that can now we can get together, share information, help each other out.
Right.
It's pretty rad.
That
and
sounds cool.
that was a missing part of the internet
Yeah.
before I started it, and that's why it's gotten so popular. Is
Right,
mine's the
it's-
OG.
That's right. Hey. Innovation at its finest.
Yeah.
Adapt and overcome, right?
Yeah, but that never come.
Dude, so the kayaking, freaking archery, that's insane. What else we got?
I did a Spartan race this summer.
Yes.
I
dude.
did, like, a
See,
mud
and I've been
run.
talking about it. What's my excuse? I gotta go do this.
Dude, let's do it
Let's
this
do
summer.
it.
They're
Let's
awesome.
do it. I'm down.
It's a lot of fun. It's great to do as a team.
Yeah.
It's a hardcore team environment, like
Okay.
a team atmosphere. It's not an easy thing.
Right.
You are literally doing military level training stuff, which if you were very fit and very trained, you probably could do it yourself.
Right.
But I needed some help.
Oh yeah.
But that was the best part. We were a
still a
team. We're all
team.
helping each other out. We're helping each other get over walls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, man.
That's awesome.
I did. So what happened was I did it's called a Dirty Dash.
Okay.
It's held in Albany. It's kind of I call it Albany's version of a mud run.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the ghetto mud run.
Gotcha.
Still a lot of fun, but it's a little town mud run. It's not a big event.
Right.
But doing that, I did it with some friends, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do a Spartan race with us?" And I was so pumped after that Dirty Dash. I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it. When is it?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Next weekend." And I'm like, "Oh, geez. All right."
Let's go.
I'm so pumped. I'm buying a ticket. I
Yeah.
bought a ticket. Groupon, awesome. So that next weekend was busy, man. I did the Spartan race on Saturday, which
Right.
was out in Washougal, over in Washington.
Okay.
And then the next day was the Providence Bridge Pedal in
Okay.
Portland, where they shut down the 405 Fremont Bridge and a couple other steel bridges, and we got to go ride our bikes all around the town. It's really cool.
So you ride bikes too?
Yeah, so I ride bicycles,
Okay.
mountain bike and a road bike.
Okay. So mountain biking, kayaking, archery. I know you run because I run with you.
Yep.
Running. What else?
We rock climbed yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday we rock climbed, and I'm here to tell you folks, rock climbing with this guy, he's just gonna show you up. I'm just telling you right now, he's gonna show you up. like I was just so like it makes me emotional to even think about it, man, because you were like you were getting it, man. You were getting it, and there was like you didn't show a sign of like literally, this literally makes me emotional to think because you didn't show a sign of, oh, I can't do this. It was like, okay, you were looking at the different handholds and figuring it out, calculating it, and so I seen you doing that, and the inspiration. That's why I went into the moment where I was like, put my arm behind my back, because
Yeah.
I'm trying to like vibe with you, see what's like, try to experience it as best as I can, right? And like I said, I'm here to tell you guys, not easy. You want a challenge? It's already a challenge to rock climb. Try doing it with one arm, like this gentleman, and be efficient at it. And like I seen you like scale like what 30 feet is it? How tall do you think it is in there? 25?
With the gym that we were at, probably only like 25. But yeah,
Yeah.
when I'm at Planet Grant, there's some like 40-foot walls.
Dude, that's
It's
intense.
way up there. It's
Dude,
fun.
and it's scary as shit with the one hand, man. But I'm sure like you've found your groove. I imagine it was super challenging in the beginning, and like I fell. All right, I got up. I couldn't get to the top with the one hand. You did it. Like I seen you do it, and I was like, fuck. And I'm sitting there like, my hand was sweating. Right, and then I'm coming back down, and I seen you come back down. I seen you go up. I seen you come down. So I'm like, all right, I gotta put in some work. I got two arms. I can fucking let me make this happen, right? And I couldn't make it happen. Like I said, I couldn't hit the top. I got stuck, and I was like, fuck, I can't do it. And then, and I just physically, I couldn't figure out a way. And maybe I didn't look at it right, whatever it was. But I was so close. I felt like it was like right there, right? And then coming down, I lost it. Like I lost it, fell back, and falling back is scary as shit, man.
Yeah, you gotta trust your equipment.
And every single time, that's what you're going through. Like you're going through that. But like you said, you trust the equipment and you do it, and
Honestly, I have no other option.
right,
And it's here. This is what I was just thinking. It's a good way to put it. If you think about doing it with one hand, it's a challenge.
right,
If I thought about doing it with two hands, it would be a challenge, because that's no longer my normal.
right,
I'm the one saying that like my dad did a really good job, like I don't want to say forcing down, but like really like solidifying in me was learn your new normal. Don't try and like be who you used to be. Don't try and be someone you're not. Like learn your normal. So that was how I've been able to be so positive and I've come through so far, and I've like really gained or really have done so much with like what I've got is like
Right.
I've learned my new normal. But when I'm climbing, I'm not thinking. I literally don't even remember how to think about having a second hand.
Right.
But like I'm not thinking about like, oh, if I only had, I could do that, and like that's what I would do.
yeah.
Like sure, I know that's a thing. I can strategize. I'm very mechanical, so I know
Right.
that sure, if I had a left hand, that'd be so much easier to do. I know that that's a
Right.
thing, but I don't think about that when I'm thinking about it. Just as with you, you've got two hands, so you've got two tools that essentially your brain has gotten used to.
Right.
So when you think about not having one of those tools, you're like, whoa, what? Like that's hard now.
Yeah.
Just anytime you throw a different tool in the
Right.
in the
You're-
toolbox,
It's changing it.
it changes it.
Total different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I feel like we could sit and make excuses all day, or we can just get to work, man.
Yeah.
And dude, seeing like and just hearing like all that and everything you've overcome, and like it's just inspirational, man. And, like you've adapted. I see you like multiple people in the communities that were around. Clearly, they knew who Kevin is. You know, you're making those communities online. You know, so I guess with all that, you know, as we're kind of wrapping up on our time and we're getting here, there's a thing that I like to do on the show, and what I encourage is for you to, I give you the floor for a moment. You know, you got a minute, 2 minutes, and this camera, that camera. More likely, are we going that camera or this camera over here? For you to give your words or whatever you would say to the world. If you had the world here in front of you,
Okay.
what would you say to them?
I would say a lot, so it's going to be hard to condense
In
it down into
2
60
minutes.
seconds. I mean, not giving up, I guess, of course, is like the key thing to anything. It's just like there's always going to be challenges. Challenges are literally unavoidable. So, like, you can't complain about those challenges. Like, they're going to be there. And sure, you can complain about it, but you're not going to have fun with those challenges, and you're going to think that they're ultimately hard. But if you start to learn to enjoy the journey, like, that's when you start having fun and start excelling because you want to do more. You know, if you have fun while doing it, then of course you're going to want to do it again. So I've learned to have fun with the challenging things in my life. So I mean, those are really big takeaways. And you mentioned excuses. Excuses, honestly, like, you didn't go to the store and go, oh, look at that excuse, that's on sale. Like, maybe the Oreos were, and that was your excuse to eat the Oreos. But, like, you know,
Right.
like, excuses are not a tangible thing. They literally originate up here.
Right.
Like, they come from here, they originate from here, they take over, whatever. Like, excuses, we make our own excuses. Whether they're subconscious or conscious, we make our own excuses.
Right.
And it's good to recognize that. Because when you recognize that you're making your own excuses or that you are the ultimate creator of those, that's when you can learn to take those excuses away and realize they don't actually have the sort of power you give them.
So, dude, once again, you're a fucking rock star, man. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having this great conversation.
Yeah, I just like to live life, man. Everyone should just live life. Like, I just happen to
Life.
do it with one arm, so, like, everyone's like, ooh, that's cool. It's because I'm different. But, yeah, like, everyone can live that kick-ass life. You just have to do it. There's no
Right.
excuses.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you
I
for
think
having me.
that who knows, maybe in the future have you back on and chit chat some more, dive into something else, maybe the experience of what else you got going on in the community, right? Yeah, I think that's about it. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to We the People, an American pod show. And I want to also thank Kevin for coming on. And I want to encourage everybody to keep rocking the free world. Later.